Hello friends, how are you today? Well, I have a treat for you today. I have the second half of my video on the situation in Turkey and the images that occurred on the chart at the same time. I have been looking at the data and reviewing all the information. And although this woman in the image here is not me, she's my alter ego today. Just spying through the frequencies to see what can be seen. So let me just look at this chart with you. This is the chart today, and Thursday going into Friday. And I want to thank everybody who made comments, and in particular the man who gave me some information that was really helpful for bettering my interpretation. And, you know, I put together kind of some of the key observations here, and my friend Alex said to me, you know what that looks like? It looks like a flag. Now this time I'm going to use the thick green rectangle here. It looks like a flag here facing forward, okay, within the flag that faces this other way. And here's the popped balloon that was over the United States. Isn't that amazing? That was just incredible when she said, I was like, oh my goodness, that is what it looked like when it popped and came down when they shot it down. Someone else said it looked like a boomerang, and I thought that was really interesting because it implies consequences for actions, and it implies, you know, what we put out comes back to us. And I think that we have to be really careful to, when we see situations like in international politics and the news and stuff, we have to be careful to be, oh gosh, what do I want to say? Considerate or considered when we say, oh, well, this has got to be the answer. Because I think that there is a lot of illusion going on, and I don't know if we know. You know, I don't know if a lot of people involved really fully know what all the details are. So I have some information on that I've got coming up next. I put the second part of the video that I recorded is coming up after I do this introduction. And so I just think that that's an interesting concept for later, that idea of boomerang, because I think that, well, we see it in the astrology chart with an asteroid. I've been tracking Varuna, which is justice, the Hindu god of justice. And right now, Varuna is in Leo, and it really speaks to a desire by the individual to see justice done. So we'll see where that takes us as a society. We saw a lot of that today in congressional hearings. People being called before, called to a public reckoning. And you know, the opposite sign of Leo is Aquarius, which is the group consciousness. That's the shadow of the individual consciousness on the chart. Someone else said it was a big fish, that's what big fish looks like in the radar, which I thought that was interesting. Maybe some operation happened as well that got a big fish, you know, that nailed something that needed to be taken out. I don't know here. And we talked already about the flag of Turkey. If you haven't seen my previous video to this one, the previous video has an angel, and she's sort of praying and musing over the Schumann resonance, and it's all gold. She's all gold. So take a look at that. And oh, someone else mentioned that it looked like an angel wing, and it was amazing. I didn't, you know, when I was working on the artwork and the artistry of the images, I didn't realize it, but she was absolutely right. The angel wing had that same kind of curve, and so there were those two curves in the artwork, and it was very balanced. And it's so cool how when you go with your inspiration, these things just happen and they just come up. So I want to thank the man who who informed me that when the flag is like, if this was to be an American flag, okay, this is the stars and stripes, and so then this is the flag. So this, if it was the distress flag, it would look like this. Okay, so I made an error there in terms of that information. But what I would say, that's what the distress flag would look like. So now we know for next time. Hopefully there's not a next time, because I don't like to see our country in distress. But in this image here, if you look at how it's, you see how these aren't exactly straight lines. There's a lot of like vibration. It's almost like it's moving, it's waving, it's even vibrating very quickly. And I had this impression of distress, of tension, and I think that is in the image. And using that information, I was able to add this interpretation of, obviously the flags. There's 2 flags here at least, plus the third one here, this symbol from the Turkish flag. And you have the flag and the pole. Now, what the man told me is that this is how a flag on a certain kind of uniform, American uniform, is. And what it means is that the stars lead forward in battle, which I thought was so cool. And that our country that the military is never. It's never to be seen as being in retreat on the battlefield. Isn't that interesting? And, what it implies things that one could only imagine, because we don't have any data at our fingertips necessarily, unless you follow Patel Patriot has some interesting information and thoughts about what could be going on military-wise. But it's interesting because with the balloon situation, it appeared that there was that our country appeared weak, right? Oh, there's a balloon from another country, and now we're not shooting it down. And what that speaks to, then with this showing up on the Schumann, isn't that wild how it's exactly like what happened? This is multiple interpretations are work with energy like this. I've explained that before. But basically it implies that we were not in a position of weakness, and that somehow there was a strength there and a strategy that is not apparent at first look. And that's a great thing about military strategy. It should be hidden. How else do you win, right? You don't win by telling everyone else your plans or what you're doing. So I thought that was really interesting. And amazingly, okay, I created the visuals and the video that you are about to see before this man contacted me. And it's so amazing that I picked up on the energy of what he was saying, even though I did not have like the real world details to truly understand it. I had the intuitive side. So, I feel like my first video was very feminine, very much more feminine energy. And this video, you'll see in a minute, it's more expressing the masculine. And when I'm speaking, I just want to say I'm interpreting energies. So I'm interpreting energies. So I'm not, I'm more feminine, but and I think that's why I felt more comfortable publishing the first part of the video first, which is more feminine interpretation. But and the thumbnail in particular was obviously more feminine, the compassion for this terrible event that had just gone on. But the masculine, right? Energy is about the defense, the standing up, the standing forward, all of that, and the protection. And that really comes through, as you will see in a moment. And it was wonderful to have this person send a message, send a comment, because I felt like it was in perfect balance, male and female. And, ultimately, to win the spiritual war, we do require, in my view, to find a balance between these energies, and for each of them to find their proper place in the proper moments, right? What is appropriate in a particular moment to express, to be heard, to be listened to. So before we watch the next part of the video, I wrote this thread on Twitter called Dispel the Monster. And I wrote this because the red quality on the chart I'm about to show you, which looked very similar. There was this big similarity between the chart that we saw this week with that, which I interpreted with the earthquake, and then I'm going to show you the next interpretation. But I wrote that because when the red spiked up to 250, and I'm going to show you that chart here, what it said to me was that there was a spiking up and that we were going to see the darkness. And indeed, we then saw it at the Grammy ceremony in vivid detail and horrendous detail. And the anger, I've noticed in myself, before that TV show even happened, I had noticed that my anger was really up. So the red is also the deep anger, and we have to be careful about anger, that we don't get caught in like a loop where we end up giving our energy away because it's just excessive. It's okay to feel the emotions, but we want to not feed. We don't want to feed the darkness because it doesn't really benefit us, does it? And so the other thing about the red is it can be our passion. So at the same time, and that's why I used this image here of the girl, facing the monster. What will you do about it? That's what I wrote. The darkness shows itself. What will you do about it? Boy, that was prescient, wasn't it? And here's the thing. Here's this girl. She seems totally defenseless, and she's facing this incredible, scary monster with big red eyes. And in the thread, I go through and I talk about facing the monster. Okay. Now, if you're on my Substack, I'm in a big drama. I have 4 articles that are all halfway done. So I promise that I will be getting those out to you soon. And I apologize for the delay in that. But I sometimes I do everything at once, and it's caused a delay in me getting that out. So that's going to come soon. I wanted to show you this in case you're interested in looking at the thread. And then the thread that I put out today, and this is also, I just put this out on my Substack, is about the 4 horsemen. And this really comes off of the energy of the soldier that I'm going to talk to you about next, because it's a sense without words of incredible intensity that I've just been reading in the energies. And so it recalled to mind the concept of the 4 horsemen, especially because it's been in discussions on social media lately. And I had a dream of them it was some time ago. Boy, that was intense. And so that's what this is about. And it's got some amazing images in it as well. And then this is the thumbnail for the first video that I mentioned earlier. This video is additive. There's no repetition really. And so, but this video you can watch, the one I'm talking to you in now, without having seen the first one, and you'll still get a good understanding. But both of them together are pretty amazing. Hopefully. Okay, so we had a similar image on the chart. And by the way, this is unusual. It seems like we have so much unusual stuff going on the chart the last, really few months. But when I saw this, I'm going to reserve comment because I'll go into it more a little bit another time because I want to stay focused. But when I saw this, it seemed like the idea of a timeline skip or jump. And there was also the idea here of bringing something into reality from the energetic, because you see, if you can see, there's almost like a blue tube here underneath the green, and then here is the green, and like a green curtain comes after this strange, it's more of a wider C shape here. So when I first looked at this chart before I found out about the earthquake, I thought, oh wow, that skip from before is landing in our reality. That's what I thought that was. And let me show you something about that. This is when the qualities in red went to 250. Now, there have been extraordinarily high qualities peaking like this in green. And there have been some peaks in red, but as far as I can remember, 250 is possibly the highest that I've seen. And that's what happened during these skips. In green, it was 59. That is very, very high. I mean, that's an unusual spike there at the beginning and then the end. And it's almost like humanity wanted to jump over this experience. See, there's whatever the red was bringing us. It's almost like we didn't want it. We tried to jump over it. God only knows what is really going on behind the scenes. I mean, what I'm saying is, as bad and as terrible as it is, that I have a feeling that it could have been worse. And I don't know why, but that's what I feel like. I mean, that's extraordinary to say, given how devastating what's going on in Turkey is. But I wonder if this is, I wonder if it's about avoiding a war, a greater war, because I don't think any of us want to see, and I'm just talking about the energies here. I don't know how to translate it into our human experiences, but that's what I see here, because you see how the green rises here and then it peaks right there. I think that was correct, my view of this, like that we wanted to jump, almost like a timeline jump. We want to jump over something, and I think we don't want World War III to break out. Nope, we're not having it. And so I don't know what all of this means. I think it's like, oh, you're not having it? Well, then here, I'll wreck the place as I leave. That's, I'm just interpreting. That's not me saying that. That's my interpretation of the contrast of the energies. Oh, man, that's just, wow. All right, now, I just want to say something here. And I used the image of the soldier, the unknown soldier here. We don't know what country he's from, but what we do know is that this is a soldier and that he's a highly, highly trained military man. He carries the values of the military, of duty, of honor, and of protecting his country. And these are honorable values. And as citizens, all of us living in our respective countries, these are the values we want the people who protect us to have. And those that protect us require to stand firm in the face of an onslaught, of what comes at us, right? At what comes at a country. And in our personal lives, it's up to us to stand firm and persevere through what we are facing. This is an extraordinary time in human history, and it's certainly an amazing thing to be able to be aware of it as it's happening. And the reason that we have that opportunity is because of the internet and all of our technology and our awareness and some of the freedom stuff that's happening. Because previously Twitter, after a certain point, Twitter's information was so restricted you couldn't, but today you could see everything. There were tons of videos and things going around about the tragedy this morning. So what I want to say is that I used the idea of the soldier. And the reason I did this is it echoes that Bible verse that I read a couple videos ago of Ephesians 6-11, that what we are up against here is, some sort of unknown, invisible enemy that appears to be coming after all of us, all of humanity. And it's up to us. This is the time to stand firm and to persevere and to intend that you will get through this. And it's God that backs us up. It's the light within us that allows us to stand firm. And in my view, to even potentially raise that green resonance quality and influence aspects of what unfolds on this chart. Because the light within us is the strongest, is of the strongest frequencies. And how I view it is like this. It's like what underlies. It's the quality, right, within the resonance range. So you can have a person, right, that's psychologically together, and then you can have a person that's been very wounded. And the person that's wounded, if they've been beaten down, they may not be able to stand firm the way someone who has recovered from trauma or is psychologically strong from their various practices or the way they live their life or whatever they've been through, and they've just come to that. And so those of us who can stand firm, it's important to do so. And it's important to call on God in these energies and express what you feel. Express to God, talk to God, and not from a point of victimization, but from a point of like talking to your Father, talking to someone who you love and who loves you dearly, and saying, what do you wish to create on your world? Because I'm not in agreement with this satanic stuff they had on TV last night. Are you? Have you thought about telling God that you're not in favor of it? If you're not, that's what standing firm and persevering is about in the spiritual, in energy. And you see, creation comes into energy, and God gives us free will. And so it's important to express in energy what you wish to create and what you wish to not create, right? And to withdraw your energy from. And so that's why I put the image of the soldier on this thumbnail, because the energy emitted in this photo of this man in this photo is someone who knows where they stand, who knows what he believes in, who understands, intuitively he knows how he will act during challenge and what he will do to protect himself and his loved ones. And that's it's interesting because I'm trying to illustrate the spiritual warrior as well, because there's action in the physical and there's action in the non-physical. And while it's important to have these qualities in the physical where we can. But in my view, they start in the non-physical. And in my view, it's not just a physical, there aren't just physical battles going on here. It has to be accompanied by the spiritual warriors. Because we really are dealing with forces of darkness and demonic forces. And when they leave a person, when a person dies, it requires that the non-physical element is dealt with accordingly. And so that is the territory of the spiritual warrior, whose stance is very much like this man in the physical. Very, very similar. And we're each called to do different tasks. Some of us will be doing this, and some of us will be doing other things that are equally, as important. Somebody needs to take care of the home front. Somebody needs to do this, somebody needs to do that. But the biggest thing is to look at your attitude and keep it up. Keep that connection with God, no matter what happens. And I know there are people that say, oh, why would God do this? I address that in recent videos. I don't feel that acts like that are from God. I feel that in challenging situations, God's role is to support us and love us and be there with us and to help carry us through if we need that.